And we're live. I guess you're surprised because we're coming to you at a different time today, which kind of we decided to do that going forward. So, going forward, our show it's going to be starting at 10 Central, 11 Eastern Time, and that'll be 8 Pacific Time. So, welcome for another episode of No Particular Reason. I am your host, Yanko, and I'm here with our co host, Kerri Lewis, who is a speaker and coach. And we're excited to do another Friday show with you guys. Welcome.
Welcome, Yanko. And for everybody out there, we show up for no particular reason, but really we do this because we want to have conversations with you guys about all things
That's right.
mindset, mental health, addiction recovery, hypnosis, energy, vibration, and whatever else suits your fancy. So if anybody's watching this and wants to join us, please jump in and ask us questions or ask to join. And we love a good party. So thanks for being here.
Yeah, that's right. I couldn't say it better. We're really here for you guys, and even if you're watching us on the replay, you can join us one of the Fridays if you're free around and interact with us live. Ask us questions. We'll bring you in. We'll answer any questions that you might have, and we'll make it more engaging and entertaining for you, and hopefully informative as well. And if that's not an option, you can always write us a text or mail and send us your questions, and we'll be more than happy to help you out and answer any questions.
Or just have good conversation because that's just what I love to do. So do you have anything top of mind that you want to talk about today, Yanko?
I don't know. I haven't really thought about anything. Whatever comes to mind usually, but we'll just go with the flow. And this is why it's for no particular reason. There's not really a reason that we're doing this for except helping you guys out and
Well,
sharing
yeah.
our
So
vibe with
we
you.
always have things to say because that's just how I am. And I think that I try to share my lived life experiences openly and candidly so that way the lessons and the blessings that I get to move through can impact other people. And so, something I want to talk about today is going with the flow and what that means for you.
Going with the flow.
Going with the flow.
Well, not being judgmental, just being in the moment because like technically you can't really do anything of what's going on outside of you. You're only in charge of yourself. So there's no really a point in resisting of not going with the flow because like whatever happens that happens you can if it's outside of your ability to control it or change it in any way then it turns out to be a struggle more. It's like trying to swim upstream, if that
Mm.
makes any sense.
Well, so it's interesting. I was thinking earlier as I'm sitting in the parking lot waiting to switch cars, and you so generously and kindly offered to support me in helping fix my website, which had a bug in it.
And I think we lost you, but we're gonna see if this is a something that's happening on my end or on your end. So we'll give it a little time for you to come back, and I'll circle back on going with the flow thing. Oh, there you are.
I'm back. I'm
You froze
back
up
in
there
the
for a second.
saddle again. I don't know what that was.
This is a perfect example of going with the flow.
Going with the flow because it's back. But anyway, I don't know how much you heard, but I was talking about how instead of trying to control and
Right.
freak out about the fact that my website broke or did something, I don't know, because I don't do the techie tech stuff like that. I
Mhm.
allowed, right? I said to you yesterday, I'm like, I'm gonna go walk away and I'm gonna eat some foods and I'm gonna just be. And then this morning I woke up and I just practiced all the things I practiced. And then you happen to show up and be like, oh, I got you. And in doing that, things worked out in the highest good of all without me cultivating a lot of stress. And that truly is going with the flow rather than forcing or controlling an outcome in the moment. I let it go and let it unfold the way it needed to for whatever reason, right?
That's right. It's like a lot of times we can, and that's the reality of things, and that's why a lot of philosophers, even from years ago, are circling around the same thing, passing that idea that everyone lives in their own reality, because everyone really does. They create every experience they have based on their perception or memories or whatever experiences they have, and they constantly bringing this from memory and projecting it and what's happening. And by doing that, they're actually missing being in the flow or being in the now or being present, or just seeing everything as is instead of judging it based on whatever memories they have that are coming up on that minute, because that's kind of part of the mind, so if it's something that you can really do but you try to change, um, then it's easier to just not attempt to do anything, because that's fruitful. Like, you're not going to get anything out of it. You're not going to get far, at least to my opinion.
Well, you know what? I'll challenge that a little bit. You will get far. You will get far down the rabbit hole of stress, anxiety, and fear, which again, from a purely energetic and vibrational standpoint, a lot lower um energy, right? And it
Mhm.
really truly doesn't serve the highest good of you because all you're doing unintentionally, and I'll bite, most people aren't taught this, so is causing more suffering instead of just allowing what is to be and let it unfold in its own time, the way it will unfold without our need to force anything or make things be what they're not in that moment.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because, like, even if you take the weather, for example, you might not be happy that it's cold outside, that it's raining, but you can't stop the rain. You can't change the weather. You can only accept it and go with that. So yeah, in other situations, you might be not happy about the outcome of the situation, but it doesn't mean you can change it or do anything about it. And that present moment, you can only learn from that experience. And yeah.
Well, and again, when you talk about not being happy about whatever it is you're going through, I really work towards finding joy in whatever experience I'm having. And I cultivate it through something you just said, which is instead of resisting maybe getting lost in Harlem, which happened to me this Sunday, right? I'm lost in Harlem. Instead of
Really?
resisting that, I was grateful for the lesson that it provided and that being lost reinforced the importance of self-care, because when I am nurturing and taking care of myself throughout the day, I stay in a higher vibration. When I
Mhm.
stay in alignment, I can be guided easily, but when I'm depleted, I generally don't have as much ability to see the path in front of me, and then I just go wonky and go funky. And but instead of being upset about this situation, I immediately turned it into appreciation, into gratitude for the lesson, and maintained a joyful disposition despite being lost.
And that's pretty much all you can do. Like, if you imagine yourself getting caught on a, like a, busy river stream, and it'll be safer if you surrender to the stream and let it carry you down the stream, to safety instead of trying to fight the stream, the waves, and everything to swim your way out of it. Um, so, and that was something interesting the other day that I come across when I was reading a book that they were talking about, like why are like drunk people not getting like really heavy body injuries when they're drunk and they fell on, hit themselves. It's because their mind, it's not there. They're just working on like in the flow. If they feel like swinging, they swing. Whatever comes in, they're just like more protected because in that moment they're in flow. They're just like going with whatever it's happening. and
Absolutely.
and that kind of made me chuckle when I was reading it. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, I never thought of it that way.
Well, that's why, people who are driving under the influence can be in really, really horrendous car crashes and walk away unscathed, but the person they hit wounded, right? Because
Right.
they're not in flow. So that's a really important point. I'm curious, are there times when you find yourself resisting flow, and how has that worked out for you?
All the time. All the time. Yeah, it's not something that happens overnight. It's in constant practice because when you're going and things are happening, there's always what I was saying, that like memories are coming back based on previous experiences, and I'll cut myself thinking, okay, this is happening and I'm resisting. I catch myself because I'm thinking this is going to happen again because I had that experience early on. And then I go like, no, 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 no. Like, what are the chances to it's like winning the lottery 3 times in a row. You know what I mean? The chances of me having the same exact experience are very little to nothing. So yeah, it's more of a self observation for me to be able to like catch it early on before I really get into character, because like once that unfolds, then the feelings will come in, and that'll be harder to um, transform your like turnaround or whatever way you want to see it. Because once the feelings are there, logic gets out of the way. You can think yourself out of that situation, or you can redirect when there's like feeling going on. um, I mean, I don't know, sometimes you might be able to redirect even feelings if you're doing different practices where you surrender that feeling to somebody, like Eastern practices
I do it
surrender
all the
their
time.
things to like higher deities and other things like that, and they say, all right, this is it, like, but take it, help me, like, and then in a way that's a way of like redirecting it, and this whole thing goes away.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're spot on in one. The longer you find yourself in resistance, the more momentum it builds, right? Because
Hmm.
everything's energy, guys. It's so important to understand that. And once you get it, truly you have the keys to the kingdom, because then you can shift out of it, shift out of it, shift out of it. And when I do catch myself in that emotional spiral, which is always fear. Like for me, it's always some form of fear. When I catch it, I just keep releasing it. And sometimes as I release it, I release it, I release it. But eventually I'm able to come back to peace, whether it's a second or a minute or a day. And I'm able to ground myself, and then I'm back in flow.
But the fear, it's byproduct of wanting a control.
Oh, of
If you think
course.
about it that way, it's like a lot of the time the fear comes out of losing control, or the perception of being in control.
Mm,
So oh, what will happen if this happens, because you're not in control, and the more you're not of control, the more fearful you are, because you feel like you know something might happen because you're not going to be able to control the situation. So but the more you practice, being in flow, that's the good news. The less fearful you're gonna be, because you're gonna, like a checklist, you're gonna get through whatever. It's more often that it's happening to you that you're fearful of, because you want to control it. And when you think about it, like anytime you're fearful, you think like, why am I fearful? Where's this coming from? Oh, because I'm afraid maybe that I'll get a flat tire and I don't have like a roadside assistant. Well, that's something I can do. Like maybe I can get roadside assistance, and next time I won't be fearful about it. Or, check it out of the list. Like, is it really true? Like you can even play it in your head and say, well, if let's say this happens, like you have the fear of not having the control of whatever the outcome is, and you can play it out in your head and say, well, what will happen out of that? Like, okay, if this really happens, because we don't know. This is only in our mind trying to predict the future and based on our perception, and that helps out a lot of the times to be able to see, okay, this might happen, this might happen, this might happen, but what are the chances? Maybe none of that will happen. It's just like a mind game that you're just like playing it in your head, and there's no really like what's the truth? Like, there is that really true? Like, is that really going to happen? And then when you come to that, you go like, ah, and then next time it doesn't even come up.
Yeah. Yep. And you just keep again, what I like that you talked about is that you bring awareness to all the possibilities, and then you recognize that most of them are completely outrageous, or even if it's going to happen, what's the worst that's going to happen, right? Like, so you end up on the side of the road and you have to wait a few hours so that somebody you love can come over, right? It's even if you don't ever get roadside assistance, you're able to really walk that path of realizing that something will unfold, so that way you're not stuck on the side of the road for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. It was something that popped in my head. Like I was just going with whatever comes out, and that might not be like a perfect scenario example that I could give, but um, we can even take it step further, and if we start thinking of like multidimensional beings instead of like just now, then there's like multiple thousandfold possibilities that you can play the scenario off, and all that freedom to do whatever you want in that minute. It's like sitting in a crossroads with thousand roads you can take, and in that minute you decide like, okay, do I want to this or this one, or which one I want to go to? And they all play itself out, because quantum physics and all that are saying that you exist in many times spaces in the same time. So
Yeah.
that
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 seems to work for me. I'm just like, what's the fastest way back to peace? Fastest way back to peace. And I do that. And again, when I do find myself outside of flow, I just am in gratitude for the lesson, which we are always learning lessons all the time, all the time, all the time, when we're open to observing our thoughts and coming from a place of curiosity. And people hear me say it over and over and over again, but it's critical. And because our mind creates the experiences we're having outside. So if you're not aware of what it is that's coming up for you in any given moment, then you are just kind of going along to get along without any real direction other than cyclic from past experiences.
right. Yep. I That really is how it is. But I won't give any other examples of like if you have a direction or if you don't have a direction, because that'll take you a different route, which you might like or might not like.
Yeah. I mean, like my example in Harlem, right? The reality is I knew I needed to stop and pause and take breaks throughout the day helping somebody out. And I kept pushing that aside because in my mind at the time, I'm like, I only have this limited amount of time and I want to get as much done. Right. And so by the time I was set to head home, energetically, I was depleted. I was coming from an empty cup. And that's why I'm constantly telling people you must fill your own cup in order to pour from another one. But you know that I just sat in gratitude because we need contrast. We need those reminders. We need
That's right.
those um experiences that remind you why you do the work you do in the first place so you can continue forward. Otherwise, you're not growing and you're not expanding. And I truly believe that we as human beings are meant to expand and grow in this human body, and this is in this lifetime that we're part of.
Well, we do, and this is why we're a small child, and then we grow to a adult human form, and then we expand internally with the mind and everything. So yeah, yeah. But you're not wrong about like conserving energy because uh, that was all couple years back. Um, if you ask me, I'd be like, this is a bunch of nonsense of like this whole energy thing and everything is just like, but like now, if you think of it, m- maybe if you compare yourself to a battery, you have full charge and then the charge goes down and there's the battery, but there's no charge. It's useless. There's nothing left in it. It's kind of the same. That's how I think of it. Like you go home, you recharge, you let the body recover, and you get the charge back, and you're ready to take on the world in the morning. And then you have certain like quantity of how much or the charge is left, and when it's done, you're done. Like you just want to go and sleep and not do anything.
Which is why I don't try. I recharge throughout the day so that I don't feel like I need to just crash and burn, or more importantly to me, that I'm not being guided by ego rather than spirit. And if anybody's like, what is she talking about? Like, my thinking mind tries to control everything. So when I'm really tired, my thinking mind kicks in really fast because my ability to catch it quickly isn't there. My ability to challenge the ideas that are coming up isn't there. And so I just kind of operate on this default habits, behaviors, and past experiences. My spirit, my knowing, my flow, whatever that is. And I don't know how anybody, like, I don't know if there is a real word that would describe it. It just kind of guides. It just kind of, I don't have to make plans. I don't have to control how the flow of this conversation goes. I just, in that, I just am. Like, I just am. And then it's unfolding in perfection. So that's why it's important to me to always continuously recharge my battery for sure.
But even if it doesn't look like it's unfolding in perfection, that's your own judgment going and saying,
Sure.
oh, this could have been better because there's no wrong or right way of something or how something will unfold. Because in the end of it, everything it's perfect the way it is. So even if you catch yourself saying, oh, darn it, this could have been better this way, this is you coming and judging yourself and actually being hard on yourself instead of accepting yourself the way you are and saying, all right, well, maybe it'll be different next time and maybe I'll have a different experience.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, there's duality in everything, right? There's always there's all opposite, like everything has an opposite. There's love, there's hate, dark, light,
right.
up, down. If you think about it, everything has an opposite. And you're right. The whole of the experience is perfection. For
Yeah.
me, though, it is about coming back to love as quickly as possible. At the end of the day, I really strive to exist in love because that's what we are created from, and that's what we are meant to be for others too.
To me, it's a bit different. Um, to me, it's the middle way, like balancing, because your natural state it's being in love, and then when you're not in love, you're out of balance. And either you swing like a pendulum the one way, so it's coming back to trying so hard and being in flow, If you swing this way and you're in love too much, then you swing right back and you come back to being in misery and not happy or whatever, because you go up and down like everything. It's like cyclical. And to me, the best way or the best place to be, it's in the middle and experience both ways, experience love and not love, and not swing too much so I don't have like a huge difference. It's like, oh, I'm in bliss, like everything, like tears are coming down my eyes, and I'm like, oh, and then next thing you know, it's like, damn it, like I feel so angry and everything it's against me, and what's going on here? You know what I mean? So little variations for me. It's how I do it.
Hmm. Well, it's interesting you say pendulum shift because that's what people who struggle with addiction, which is the bulk of society, goes through on the regular. Like your pendulum is shifting here into maybe suffering, so you lean
Right.
into something excessively, so it shifts over here into bliss, but that bliss is a very 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 short lived, and because we always experience the opposite, it goes backwards to that
Yeah.
extreme. So
What?
but I definitely, you keep your middle way, and I'm gonna sit, enjoy, and love as much as possible because I don't, I don't, I don't feel the need to if things come up and I experience learning, but I do it from a place of love. Again, I choose my perspective of the situation. um Good example, my aunt got super close to her. She was like a mother figure to me. I had her for like a year and a half, 2 years. She passed away unexpectedly, right? I could sit and choose to see that as a great loss and great suffering, or shift the perspective to gratitude, to appreciation
Hmm.
that I had somebody in my experience for almost 2 years who, you know, offered that unconditional love and support. And that's where I exist in love. And that is my choice. And that's a perspective, and one that I really work towards encouraging others to exist in, because the human experience you have in that place is peace, it's joy, it's abundance, it's connection, it's like it's bliss. So why would I want to come out of that?
You're gonna find out. How do I say that? What comes up must come down.
Well, that is
Um,
true.
and so when I have blissful experiences when I meditate, and I don't time myself or anything, I just go and I go with whatever feels right, and I can sit in the bliss and be um, perfect, because in that situation there's no need to change anything about anything, and everything stops and there is nothing, and you're just blissful. And but at one point you need the change, you need the movement, and you need to come down and continue on with what you're doing. um, and I don't know if this is because we're living in human bodies and we're here to have the experience, and because if we didn't want to have the experience, we could have stay on the other side and just bliss out all day long and not come down. So it could be because of that, but I haven't found the answer yet. I just know that, at one point or another, when I'm sitting in the bliss state or in that state of like completion, I'm like, all right, now let me come back and maybe have a pizza. How about
Well, it's
that?
interesting. What something you say is true is that we live in a constant state of change. That is absolutely true. And that's where, it goes back to my original question to you about flow, and your understanding about it is so often people resist change, and it makes me chuckle. I'm like, but we're not even the same person we were an hour ago, right? You look at
Right.
it from a purely scientific perspective. Our molecules are changing. The where I was an hour ago was in a parking lot in a different place, right? So change is a constant. It's like it is the one absolute non-equivocal, non-negotiable. And yet so often people resist change, and I get it, it's because of that fear of the unknown. But when you learn to just let go and allow, that unknown you recognize is always in your greatest good, always in your highest um like growth or understanding. And so allowing yourself to just, okay, I don't know why this is happening, I don't know why my husband cheated on me. I don't know why my daughter doesn't speak to me, but whatever it is, I'm going to just go with it, because I believe that at the end of all of this, I will experience something that is going to help us all collectively. My husband, my daughter, myself.
That's right. Because you never see the bigger picture.
We
You
can't. We're
just,
way
yeah,
too
you just
small.
experience, yeah, you just experience a tiny fracture of like what your experience is. And, you know, I don't even know if I should go there, but here we go. If you're tiny sliver from a soul in the body, hypothetically, let's say it hypothetically, if you're a tiny sliver of a soul in the body, then you know there is a higher soul or higher self above you that's on different vibration, because we're vibrating in this frequency now, and that's why we're having form and we're dense. We're not
Yeah, it's a
like
low vibration.
right.
Yep.
And then from that point on, that higher self splits to like tentacles to your twin soul, or whatever, twin flame, or whatever you want to call it, and other variations. But then if you go above it, then then there is your higher self, and then above the higher self, um, there's whole hierarchy of like different types of vibrations splitting and splitting and splitting and splitting and splitting and coming down to take this form, so that you can have this experience of like movement and have a physical experience.
Yeah.
um so
But even in
yeah.
that hierarchy, there's change, right?
Yep.
Because it's splitting.
Right.
And that's why, like, even the cosmos, it's constantly expanding, it's changing, it's morphing. The sun has solar flares, right? The moon goes through different cycles.
Yeah,
And so that's
planets are forming, dissolving. There is like um, nebulous, gases. Supernovas are exploding. There's like a black holes. Everything it's moving.
yeah.
Everything it's vibing, moving, unfolding. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the suffering of humanity comes when we try to resist that and we
Hmm.
try to control it.
Hmm.
And it's, again, I have a very strong understanding of the science behind it, but shifting to spirituality, one of my greatest teachers, although I am getting into hermetics right now, which is very fascinating, but is allowed too, because everything that his fundamental principles is on the feminine and masculine, meaning we exist in both energies. It's not a gender, it is the energies that we are cultivated from. And it talks about flow. It talks about shrinking, like losing your identity to become more powerful, really, but powerful in love, like not in trying to change things, but allowing things to be. And when you know those principles, you do manifest life in a more joyful and abundant way, because you're not trying to control how it comes to you. You just know that through the principle of allowing, it will come to you.
And let's take it a step further for maybe our viewers that haven't, come to that conclusion. give it a go. Try to experiment and see what comes out of that. Because talking about it, it's one thing, but actually, like having different experiences that you know for yourself
Well,
that
give them an example, Yanko, because that's very obscure for somebody who feels like this is
well,
already.
the best example I can give, it's like me telling my son, you're gonna burn yourself. Until you burn yourself, you're not gonna know what really burning yourself means. It's just like a meaning, it's meaningful to you. So we might be talking about all those things and spirit and vibrations and all those other things that we talk about, but the reality of the situation is that those are only concepts. That's like going to the doctor and saying, hey doctor, I'm sick, and the doctor checks you out and gives you a prescription and says, go home, and here's your prescription. And then you come back a week later and you say, I'm still sick, doctor. And he says, well, what happened? It's like, I've been reading the prescription every day, but I never felt it. So it's kind of the same thing. You're consuming all those concepts and ideas, and you never put it to practice or to try it out.
Well, I
And
wouldn't suggest for our audience to go burn your hand, because that's really going to be a lesson that you can avoid. What I would say, and I will give you a very practical experience, is when I was really just starting my journey into manifestation. Right, I was a student of Abraham Hicks at the time. I really don't follow a ton of their work, but they said that you got to surrender control, like wish for what you want, but don't worry about the outcome. And so I practiced with my nephew's wedding. I needed to get a dress. Everybody's in here, oh, did you get a dress? Oh, did you get dressed? Like, no, I didn't get a dress. A week before the wedding, I said, hey Nana, you want to go to the store? I have a budget, this limit that I'm gonna spend. And I went with the flow. So I went to one store, they had nothing I liked, and I found myself wanting to control. Natural habit. Oh, you should have gone early. But it's like, nope, I'm going to practice this. It's going to work out. Walked into a random bridal store. They had like endless black dresses my size on sale for $25. These are gowns, full, like, and I was able to get dresses for half of what I was even willing to spend for one dress. And that's flow. But it was me practicing. And the reality is, guys, fear, your thinking mind is going to kick up in that. It just is, because it's been in control for so long. We have been conditioned by society, by the human experience thus far, families and everything, that you have to plan, you have to come up with this certain course of action to achieve or get the result you're looking for.
that's right.
So when you say, well, I'm not going to do that, your thinking mind is going to give you a hard time, and it's going to be like, nah. And then that's where fear comes up, and you have a choice. And this is where choice and willpower is profound. And it's something that the Hermetic principle speaks extensively on, is human will, our willpower, which I'll get into in a minute. But so when you insert your will and say, listen, I'm releasing this fear, I'm going to trust, you then experience what it is you're looking to achieve without knowing how you're going to do it. Right now, going back to willpower, guys, anybody, they are finding more and more research on the mid cingulate cortex. It's in the middle of your brain, and it is responsible for willpower and resiliency. And most people, like, our brain is a muscle. It's no different than a bicep. You don't go into the gym and start pumping 20, 30, 40, 50 pounds of weight right away in a bicep curl. For me, I started with 5 pounds, went up to 8, went up to 10, right? Same with this mid cingulate cortex. The way in which our society has operated for so long, it's weak. It's like that floppy bicep where you go in to pick up 20 pounds and you're like, damn, I can't even lift it from my elbow. And so all you do is start to work it. And that's what Yanko's suggesting. He's saying, don't believe us. Don't take what we have to say at face value. And I don't want you to. Start small, though, because if you start too big, you're not going to achieve the result that you're hoping to achieve. And then you're going to feel defeated and say, well, none of this works. When in reality, it absolutely does work. You just have to build that muscle in your brain.
Yep. I wasn't trying to give like an example of how to find out. It was more as
I
a
know.
comparison, so that you can get the idea of like, okay, it's only a theory, but you won't know until you apply it.
Yeah.
And that was wonderful the way you unfolded it. And I want to bring out our friend Gail. She commented on our video. If you're still watching, Gail, thank you. We love you tremendous.
I love Gail. I mean, if you have 20 minutes, you can always pop on and inspire us with your words of wisdom, which is so funny because if Gail is watching, I was talking to Brian Muka earlier, texting, and he said to me, in the famous words of my dear friend Gail Craft, joy, 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 joy. And when she sent me something similar, I immediately got this flashback memory of being a little kid. I don't even know, maybe 5 or 6, of the song, I got the joy, 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 joy down in my heart. Hey, and like this whole song, oh my God, I haven't thought about that song in forever. So, and for the listening audience, this is exactly what flow is, right? Like you just go with the flow and allow things to unfold the way in which they are happening rather than trying to control what the outcome is. So, yeah, but
Yep.
it's super important that you are willing to suspend what you think you know and start to, apply tiny um changes to the way in which you operate, and when you do that, the proof is in the pudding. It's always going to be in the pudding.
Yeah. Maybe suspend all judgment and say maybe I don't know. Like if your mind gives you an answer and says, "Oh, you know this," you're like maybe go like, "Well, maybe I don't. Let me see what comes out of that." Maybe I'm just like too fast to make conclusions on whatever it's happening right now.
Mm.
So
Well,
yeah.
it's funny. My beautiful friend Mickey sent me this video about addiction, and I didn't even watch it, but he captioned it like everything you know about addiction is all wrong, and he's like, this reminds me of everything that you teach, and I was like, well, I just know. And he's like, well, doesn't it feel good to have validation? I said, no, because anytime I'm seeking external validation, I'm losing that intrinsic guidance that I need for myself in the first place. And I don't know. What I know from experience, it's worked for me. It may not work for you. All I can do is give you the tools and strategies that I've applied. And it's a puzzle piece, right? The reality
Mhm.
is there is no set like way in which Joe Schmo is going to heal from addiction versus what I do. So I don't know, but what I do know is what was true for me, and I share in that experience. Oh, and look at my gorgeous girl. Hi, Santa.
Have you join us today?
Hey, joy, 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 joy.
Joy, joy, joy. Yeah. So, what joy and wisdom would you love to impart on us, my beautiful, dear soul sister?
I just love that you're talking about resistance,
Mm.
and my I love resistance is futile,
Okay. I
right?
feel like, who is that? That's Borg from
That's
Star
the
Trek.
Borg. That's
Dad.
the Borg. You know, but so the Borg and the Matrix were misunderstood. Like the Matrix is the universal mind,
Mm,
right? And so what the TV industry did was they took, because this is real, it has been discovered, it does exist scientifically, by the way. The matrix is when we meditate, Yanko, and we hear the different voices, that's like where it's coming from. And they have
It's like
found
yeah,
the reality of it.
yeah,
Yeah. So,
yeah.
and the movie took that discovery and twisted it in order to make a really great movie, by the way.
yeah. Well, I love that you said that because we all work with individuals in different capacities and service them. And I always tell people, I'm simply mirroring back to you what it is you already know. right? And I think about Pema Chodron, who talks about polishing your mirror. The only difference is the three of us have like polished off some of the conditions and the habits and the behaviors more than other people. And so we are collective, and there's nothing that the three of us say that is different. It's just communicated differently from our own lived experience and to the people that we individually are meant to serve, because we all offer a unique way of saying and teaching the same understanding, if that makes sense.
And I love the fact that you said our experience with all of the, because, I got a crap load of training. Who gives a poop? I don't put it out there, right? Because honestly, show me your credentials and I'll tell you, great, you know how to go to school. But the experience, it's applying those lessons and then what I experienced through it that makes what I do and what I say valid. It may not be
Yes.
valid for you. You're a different person than me. That's why there's so many different, like, we do the same thing, but from very different perspectives,
Yep.
right?
That's
And
right.
so, what shoe fits? That's all. What shoe
Yeah.
fits, right? So, yes, I love the fact that you say it's from experience because we're here to experience. Like, what's that? What's purpose? What's my purpose? What's my purpose? To experience the path you're on. Not any more complex than
That's
that,
right.
Yeah.
right?
Although
Right.
I
So
will add, for me, and me and Yanko vacillate or go back and forth on this all the time, because he loves the middle way, and I'm like, I love joy, dude. So you do the middle way, and I'm gonna just stay in my path of joy, because I feel like the whole real icky sticky, as fun as it was for me, yeah, I'll leave it in the past as best as I can.
I love
oh,
that.
the icky sticky. So I have a story to share that I haven't put out there yet. I'm contemplating how to frame it. So this is the first time, guys, that I'm sharing this story of me.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Yes. So you know that I went through this process of walking a path called cancer, and I walked that path with the knowing that I would come out with the Christ energy, not knowing what that meant. Says I go to this gathering of entrepreneurs, and we every week work on elevating, elevating, elevating. And I have some powerful meditations that came as downloads, and I did one night. At the end, one of the participants said, "I'm angry with you. I'm now in pain. My back and my neck hurt like when I was in a car accident." And this was all download, guys. I said, "Would you like me to take it away?" And she said, "Yes, please." I walked over to her and I put my left hand on one shoulder and my right hand on her back. I said, "Is this where it is?" She said, "Yes." I said, "Do I have permission to take it away?" She said, "Yes." I said, "I'm not taking it on. We're taking it out and we're going to throw it away. Are you ready?" She said, "Yes." I did it and she went, "Holy shit, what did you just do?"
Yeah.
3 people saw me remove something.
Yep.
Now, I am not saying I'm a healer, but when the universe says, "Gail, go do this thing," and I think, this is crazy, but I'm going to do it, it works.
Yeah. Yep.
So I'm going to put it out
Perfect.
there.
Perfect example of going with the flow. I couldn't said it
Yes,
better. Because a lot of times you have that instinct to do something, but you just don't, because
it's
here it says it
crazy.
doesn't make sense. People will think you're crazy.
Yep.
Well, here's the thing is, I mean, both of you have experienced me singing in your phone, right? Because I love to sing. I just love it. And in the beginning, I would be called to like send these really joyful or uplifting messages to really high vibrational people. So in my head, my ego's like, they don't need none of this. They got it figured out. And to your point, it doesn't have to make sense, but if in the morning I think about Gail and I want to sing to her, I'm just gonna do it. I
Thank
have
you.
no idea why, but I just do. And I know it, if nothing else, it uplifts me because I'm being true to what feels right for me in singing.
Yep.
But that to me is flow as well. Is I don't know where that lands and I don't know why, but it feels right and I just do it, even if it makes no logical sense.
Well,
And I
maybe if
really
you think of it,
go. Oh
yeah.
no, go ahead. Yeah, go. Go ahead.
I was gonna say maybe if you think of it that some of the old texts are saying like you're a drop in the water in the ocean, and then the ocean forms the waves, and the waves are moving, and you're moving because you're part of the wave. And you don't have to know why you're moving; you're just moving because the whole wave it's moving. So that's how I see it. Like if you're moving, you're moving with everything, and you're part of the wave, and that's what you got to do that time.
Yeah.
Honest to God, this is the week of waves, Yanko. So yesterday I was in an entrepreneurial meeting,
Hmm.
and I was explaining my experience of going with the flow and in business. So I just rebranded, changed a whole bunch of stuff. And it took me a couple of months, and then it like all clicked. And I said, it's like when you're surfing, you look for the perfect wave, and then you have to swim out. And that takes some work and it takes some energy to swim out. But then when you get to the wave and you're riding the wave and you're in the flow of your business, it feels so amazing. But understand, life changes, right? We're talking about change. You're going to come back to the shore and have to look for another wave to paddle out to.
Yep.
That's
Right.
life, and that's your business,
Yeah. Well,
That's so
right?
perfect.
I love that because yesterday I looked at Hannah as I'm getting ready to jump on my community call. And it's been relatively stagnant. It has members, but it hasn't really grown. And I said, babes, I don't know if I should continue with this community. It really hasn't grown much, blah, blah. And he said, I don't know. Yeah, well, and I said, well, I'm just putting the question out there, but I know the universe will provide an answer. I don't have to control it. It's just a question. So I'm in my community and I mean my energy's popping because it's what I do. I love it. It is my thing. And then I jump off the community meeting and a random stranger jumps in and I overheard the community meeting and I really love to join. I'm like, thank you, universe. That's flow. I never forced anything. I simply allow myself to ask the question because it came up and knew that the answer would be delivered without me having to do anything differently than what I've been doing.
Right, right. And so it's finding the wave, and sometimes it gets bumpy, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All of us. But it's also, for me, in the bumpiness, it's finding the joy in the turbulence. And that's what I mean by staying in joy. It's not that I'm sitting here and saying, oh, I want a peaceful, easy wave that's just rolling over and I'm just riding it. That's not it. It's what can I do to cultivate appreciation and joy while in the midst of the mess. And
Yes.
that's what I really strive to do. And because I work with so many people who are in, active addiction and really like severe, mental health crises, it's helping them understand, well, what can we do to cultivate? How can you cultivate joy while moving through that experience rather than just sitting in that arduous suffering or that that most often we associate with growth or with change and all of those things.
And so this morning this has been quite a week for me. This morning I had a conversation with someone who's been going through something he's not experienced before, and that's like he's not manifesting. And he's like, I feel it, I feel it, I feel it, but his words don't reflect what he feels. And so he had a huge breakthrough last night. And we had a conversation today, and I said, if you want to work with clients who've gone through this, you have to go through it too.
That's
Yep.
right.
So you're gone through it. Now, if you can honestly find your way out of it, how can you not have those clients show up,
Yeah,
right?
it's so true.
Right?
And, but
And
what I love is the quote that Yanko pulled up for the community is, when you speak your truth. Can you pull it up? Because I love it so much. Um, it's so profound. I think, flow also is just speaking your truth as you understand it, right? In any given moment, and not having an expectation about
How
how
it's
it's
gonna
received
unfold.
for
Yeah.
others, or how it should unfold for you.
so this whole process of releasing, I have a circle ceremony that I do, and we create a vision board that's only 3 months out. And it's not about what I'm going to look like in 3 months, but what activities I'm going to do in 3 months. It's three-dimensional, string, glue, all kinds of stuff. And then we do the woman circle thing again. It's not just women. And we talk about manifesting. We feel it. And then you know what we do at the end? All about release, isn't it? We
Burn
burn
it.
the board. We burn the board.
Yep.
We burn the board. Now, not everybody wants to burn their board, and that's fine. But how you do one thing is how you do everything, right? And so if you're feeling possessive about what you created, what else are you feeling possessive about?
Yeah.
No judgment, but just look at your life. This is indicative of what's going on in your life. So yeah,
Yeah.
I love. So Kerri, when I come to New York and see you, we should hold a ceremony of burning the board.
Oh, let's do it. It will be
Oh,
Oh,
make sure you make a recording out of it because I want to see.
Or maybe we meet in the middle and then Trump's still on Yanko's backyard in Chicago. Although he doesn't like want to go to Chicago. Where do you live? Outside of it?
Who, me?
Yeah,
I'm close to the airport. I'm like really on the boundary with like where the suburbs are starting in the actual town.
gotcha.
And it's kind of weird because the airport expanded into the suburbs and they called it that Chicago, but it's not Chicago because there's like a borderline, but it is what it is.
oh yeah, yeah. So Kerri, let's plan this. I'll pick you up. We'll do a road trip. We'll go see Yanko. We'll Yanko gather some people, and we'll do it.
Oh, I'm down. Listen,
All
I'm
right.
I'm all about a good old road trip. The last road trip I had, talk about. I mean, that was my awakening. That was
You
when
know
Shelton
I'm on
had.
one right now, right?
Yeah, I know, and I love it so much. And it's come full circle because my 16-year-old daughter is getting the car that I drove cross country when my sister passed away, and I released it. And I was like, you just gotta love the way the universe unfolds when you're in flow and you're not resisting. And with final parting words as we sign off, and I'll leave you guys to share yours as well, but guys, even the show evolved and changed throughout the hour we were here, because instead of Yanko and I having this idea about how it should go and flow, we just showed up. And in doing so, we have our beautiful and dear friend being able to jump on and impart her wisdom. And so I would really, truly encourage you all to consider where you resist change and ask yourself why, because even giving yourself permission to ask the question will bring awareness, and then with that awareness you can make a different choice.
So I'll do my closing remarks and then Yanko you. So one of the things I heard you say was what if? And I actually have a training that I'm collaborating with someone on. And the final modules are so what if? What would happen if? What would not happen if? What if you didn't do this thing? What if you did do right? So the zillion questions around what if. If you can go through that process, you'll actually end up saying, so what was the problem that I thought I had?
It's so true.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, with me it's something something a little bit different because like Kerri was saying, we're all do the same thing but differently. I say it. What will come out of that? Like you explore all the possibilities and everything, and what would the outcome be? And maybe you thought you needed this, but then on the end you're like, no, I don't need that. Like, cause you kind of see it through of like, what will come of that? Like, if I'm looking towards this, like, okay, let's say I have it, then what I'll do next step, and then maybe next step, and then the next step, and that's how it will unfold. So it's perfect.
Absolutely perfect. Thank you for letting me hop in, guys. I always love talking to you.
Well, thank you
You
for
are just
joining us. You're
always
wonderful.
welcome. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
So with that, guys, until next week, our new time is going to be 10 a.m. East. What time is it? 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m.
It's gonna be
Central.
9 a.m. Central, 10 Eastern, and that'll
8,
put the Pacific at 6 because they're like 2 hours or
8,
3 hours.
8.
We'll do the math. We're on floor right now, so
Yeah,
we
whatever.
can do math.
Time doesn't matter.
Nothing
See you
else.
next week.
It's great. So we'll see you
Bye
on the
bye, guys.